In this video, we're going to be talking about Billie Holiday. So I will show you what she looks like. There's Billie. That was not her real name, but that is the stage name that she went by, and she was a singer. So Billie Holiday was born on April 7th, 1915 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and her parents' names were Sarah and Clarence. Her parents were not married, and they were teenagers when they had her. And actually, at this point, her father abandoned the family to pursue a career as a jazz banjo player and guitarist. And Billie Holiday's mother's parents evicted her mother from their home for getting pregnant and at a teenage age and not being married at the time. So Billie and her mother were evicted from Billie's grandparents' home. And just to put it into perspective, at this point, we have also talked about Ella Fitzgerald, who was born in 1917, Louis Armstrong, who was born in 1901, and Duke Ellington, who was born in 1899. So all those folks were born within about 20 years of each other. We are still pretty much covering the same territory as far as historical context applies. So at this point, we're in a very deeply segregated society. And we're coming out of Jim Crow laws, the Black Codes. When she's born, we're in the middle of World War One. And after that, we've got the Roaring Twenties in the 1920s, the Great Depression in the 1930s. We've got World War II coming up after that, and then at that point, we are coming towards the end of Billie Holiday's life. But that's the historical context we need to keep in mind while we're talking about her life. So Billie Holiday was raised by her mother's half sister, Eva Miller, in Baltimore. Just because when her parents found out that was pregnant, that Billie Holiday's mother was pregnant, they were both kicked out. So Billie ended up being raised by Eva Miller instead of her mother for a while. While Billie Holiday was living there in Baltimore, she frequently skipped school. She was brought before a juvenile court when she was 9 years old. So juvenile meaning she went to court for people who were under 18. And just like Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald, she was kind of caught by authorities and they didn't know what to do with her. So they sent her to what's called the House of the Good Shepherd, which is a Catholic reform school. And again, that was when she was 9 years old. She's already been kicked out of her home. She's skipping school, and then she's caught and is sent to a Catholic reform school. She dropped out of this school when she was 11 years old, and she went to go work with her mother at the East Side Grill. So her mom had opened this restaurant called the East Side Grill, and they both worked really long hours there. And after this point, Billie Holiday and her mother were both living in Harlem, New York, and were actually working as prostitutes in a brothel. If you don't know what a prostitute is, that is somebody who sells sex for pay, which is a really troubling job to have when you're 14 years old, but that is where she and her mother were working because they did not have a better source of income. And they actually lived at the brothel. The brothel is a location where you would go to buy time with a prostitute. And I guess this was also probably common at the time. They lived at the brothel. That was their home as well. So at one point while they were working there, the brothel was raided by police, and she and her mother were sent to prison. They were released several months later. So at this point, we're having several struggles in a row for our friend Billie Holiday. After she was released from prison, this is in the early 1930s at this point. So this is when jazz is pretty popular, post Roaring Twenties, and then also we're in full swing of the Great Depression. So in the early 1930s, Billie Holiday started singing in nightclubs in Harlem. And this is actually not the name she was born with. When she was born, her name was Eleanora Fagan. and she decided that she was going to take the stage name Billie Holiday. So the first name, Billie, came from Billie Dove, which was an actress that she really admired, and then her father's last name, which was Holiday. His name was Clarence Holiday. So she decided that she was going to go by Billie Holiday as she was performing. Now, Billie Holiday ended up teaming up with a neighbor whose name was Kenneth Holland, and he played tenor saxophone. So they would perform together, and they grew their reputation by playing in a lot of clubs throughout Harlem. When Billie Holiday was 17 years old, this is in 1932, she replaced the regular singer at a popular club that was called Coven's. So she's already getting her name out there. She's already pretty well known. And that was a pretty big deal for her to be able to take the place of this regular singer there. And right after this, when she is 18 years old, the producer at this club at Coven's, his name was John Hammond, he arranged for Billie Holiday to make her recording debut when she was 18 years old with a guy named Benny Goodman. And Benny Goodman has been pretty famous. He's known as the King of Swing. He was a clarinet player and a band leader. And one of the things he was famous for was leading one of the first integrated jazz groups. So Benny Goodman was somebody who, during a time of like deep racial segregation, he was trying to promote integration of jazz groups, and that was pretty huge. So Ella ended up recording her first big hit right during this time period, and it was called Riffin' the Scotch. That was the name of the song. It was the title of her first big hit. And then this would have been 2 years later, she signed a recording contract with Brunswick Records in 1935. So I believe at this point she's 20 years old. So she's becoming a hit, she's becoming famous, and she's pretty well known now that she's signing a record contract. So Billie Holiday was known for manipulating the phrasing and the tempo of songs. So that means usually when you hear a song, you hear it going, you hear it staying in a tempo. But here's my number, so call me maybe. It doesn't really slow down or speed up during that song. Billie Holiday was known for changing that. So she wouldn't keep a song in the same tempo or the same speed the entire time. She would speed it up or slow it down. And she would change the way the song was phrased. That just means like the way that she sang it. Like it could speed up, it could slow down, it could follow her like natural speech pattern, like how you might say a phrase, how you might say a couple of the sentences in the song. She was also known for her vocal delivery, which just means like how you sing the song. Like what is your tone? What is your mood? How fast? How slow? Was it speech-like or was it in a specific tempo? So she was known for her personal vocal delivery and for her improvisational skills. And we know from the other jazz performers that we have studied that improvisation means making up music on the spot. So she was also well known for being able to improvise. One of the songs that she was really famous for performing was called Strange Fruit. And we're going to talk about this song here because it also was possibly part of the reason that she died earlier than she should have. So Billie Holiday sang the song Strange Fruit to deliver the message of the reality of life for a Black man in America. And we've talked about what that was like at this point. One of the things that was still going on at this time was Black people were still being lynched semi-often, and especially in the South. This song, Strange Fruit, and I'll just read you a little bit of the lyrics here. This song, Strange Fruit, is about Black people being lynched. So I'll read you some of the lyrics so you can understand the connection here. Some of the lyrics are, Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. And it goes on to continue to describe that kind of a scene. It's a really sad, really dark song. And Billie Holiday was really famous for singing it. And she's not the one who wrote it, but she was kind of known for like owning the song just because she became famous for singing it and like really told her own story through the song. So she has said that she always thought of her father when she sang the song Strange Fruit. And that's because her father, Clarence Holiday, died when he was 39 years old after being denied medical treatment in a Texas hospital because it was a whites only hospital. So he died because he was denied medical treatment because he was a black man. So Billie Holiday found it difficult to perform this song, but she did it anyway because she wanted to tell people about the reality of life as a black man in America. So she felt that she had to continue singing it, and it was so meaningful to her that she had specific rules for when she sang it in her performances. So she would end the evening with her song. It was her closing song. The waiters had to stop service when she started singing it. Like nobody was supposed to like get up or anything. So there wasn't supposed to be conversation or like movement. And the room would be complete darkness. So they would turn off the lights except for a spotlight on her face. And she would not have an encore. A lot of times jazz performers would, after their last song, people would just like keep clapping. Then they would come back and go, oh, okay, I'll sing another song. Billie Holiday did not do that. This was the end of her performance, the absolute end of her concerts was with this song because it was so meaningful to her. It was so important to her to like get this message out to her audiences. So this is where we need to talk about how this song affected her life and how it affected the community, because a lot of times her performance of this song was met with a lot of conflict, with a lot of pushback. So even though a lot of people knew that the lynchings of African Americans in the South were common, there was still a lot of turmoil and some, if you can believe it, resistance to ending that practice during that time period. There were still people that were like, I don't see why this is wrong because of the time period that they were in and the mental like state that they were in and like what they were taught growing up and all that stuff. It's just a very racist society at this point. So when people heard her performance, some people were angry about it. One of those people was a man named Harry Anslinger, and he was the first commissioner for the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. And it says in one article that he was an extreme racist even for the 1930s. So if you can imagine what racism looked like in the 1930s, which looks a little bit different than it looks now, this man, Anslinger, was still considered an extreme racist even for the time period. He was still considered more racist than other people in the 1930s, even during that time period. So this man, who again is the first commissioner for the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, so he has a lot of influence. People want to listen to what he says. And he claimed that narcotics, like the type of drug, made Black people forget their place in the fabric of American society, and that jazz musicians especially were particularly dangerous. And he claimed they were creating what he called satanic music under the influence of marijuana. And again, this is a guy who has a lot of pull. He's respected. He has a job that makes people want to believe what he says, and he's telling everyone this. So Billie Holiday was also a drug user during her life, and she had a lot of just unfortunate things happen to her for various reasons. So she was a drug user. So this guy, Harry Anslinger, was already kind of like on her because she was a drug user. So he ordered Billie Holiday to stop performing the song Strange Fruit that she was famous for and that was really meaningful to her. He ordered her to stop performing the song. So she refused, and this guy, Harry Anslinger, tried to stop her from doing that, like by any means necessary. So at some point, one of his men was paid to track Billie Holiday and frame her with buying and using heroin. And at that point, when she was framed, she spent 18 months in prison. When she was released, she had more trouble being able to perform in public at clubs and stuff like that. Because after that, the government had revoked her like a performer's license kind of a thing to perform in specific places. So that just, it made it harder for her to perform. So Billie Holiday, when she was having a struggle with all of these things, just in addition to all her like existing like health issues, she did end up using heroin again, and she checked into a New York hospital in 1959, and her liver was failing. She had liver cancer, and that was also affecting like her heart and her lungs, so she was in a very bad condition, and she checked into a hospital in New York. While she was in this hospital, Harry Anslinger's men showed up at the hospital and arrested her as she lay dying. They handcuffed her to the bed. They took mugshots. They stood at the door and did not allow doctors to come in and to continue her treatment. So after they had stopped the doctors from treating her cancer, her body succumbed and she died in just a couple of days after that. So that was on July 17th, 1959, after these men arrested her while she was dying. So it was a very depressing way to go out after just a string of horrific life events leading up to that point. But she did have a really successful singing career for the time that she was alive. And she was probably our youngest Black musician that we've studied so far. She was only 44 years old when she died. So a couple of quick facts to remember. She was born as Eleanor Fagan, but she went by Billie Holiday. She was born in 1915 and she died in 1959. She was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And these are some of the genres that she sang. We've already talked about jazz and blues and swing a little bit. Torch songs are usually like a type of jazz ballad. It's like a slow, sad kind of a jazz song. And a fun fact, since we've already talked about Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald were both alive at mostly the same time. So remember, Ella Fitzgerald was born in 1917. Billie Holiday was born in 1915. So they knew each other. They went into competition at one point with their separate bands at the Savoy Ballroom, which is a famous jazz performance venue. And Ella Fitzgerald and her band, that was the Webb Band at the time, were declared the winners. So pretty interesting time that both of them were performing around the same time period and knew each other. And I think they were friends. I don't think they were enemies, but maybe they were frenemies. So we are going to watch a live performance of Billie Holiday singing the song Strange Fruit that we were talking about. And again, this is very dark and depressing kind of a song. So like prepare your brain. Billie Holiday also, because she like has so much like storytelling ability and like life history to pull from, does such an incredible job of the way that she performs this song. So really listen to what she's saying and really just notice like how well she tells like such a dark and sad story in this song.
And now I'll sing it especially for me. Strange Fruit. Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South, The bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rock, for the tree to drop. Here is a strange and bitter cry.
So you can just really imagine like the context in which she's performing this is that this is her final song of the evening, and they would turn off all the lights, people would stop like serving food and drinks like while she was singing, and this was the absolute last song. And she just does a really incredible job of performing that and of telling the story with her face and with her like vocal delivery in the way that she sings the song. So go ahead and make sure that you have filled out all of your Billie Holiday questions on my MCPS classroom. And that is our friend Billie Holiday.